By the end of this video, you're gonna know how to take, edit, and produce high quality and, may I say, very good looking profile pictures like these. This is going to be a step-by-step guide that's going to cover every single detail along the way. So if you're interested, stay tuned, and while you're here, do me a favor and snap that subscribe button, and let's begin. For the software, we're going to be using GIMP. It's absolutely free. I know what you're thinking. I just always know what you're thinking. But John, I'm not an editor. I'm not a photo illustrator. I don't know how to use GIMP. What even is GIMP? It looks like a cheap version of Photoshop. Don't you call GIMP the cheap version of Photoshop. I'm gonna... And I also want you to be a little bit honest with yourself for just one moment. Most likely, your phone's probably not the best. And chances are your camera is as useful as a piece of rubber on round 2. If you can even handle a round 2. Anyone that you know that has a flagship phone, just borrow it for a little bit. Even your ex. Yeah. You remember that girl you used to date? 300 pounds? But she got that iPhone 13 Pro Max, so... Hey, game is game, bro. What I need you to do is to take as many photos as you can in as many different positions as you can. Make sure the lighting is good, by the way. Natural lighting, obviously, is the best option. However, if you just find a place that's very well lit, like a, I don't know, McDonald's, that can be good too. Just make sure it's in horizontal frame, or is that vertical? And I know what you're thinking. I just always know what you're thinking. But John, how do I decide which photo I like most and which one do I want to use? Is there any advice? Well, actually, there is this one technique that I use. Allow me to show you. I'm not joking, by the way. I was flickering through all 28 of the photos, which I've took for a solid 35 minutes until I found the perfect one that I want. And the second photo, this one, I'm going to be using for this video just to show you how I made the first one. By the way, if you want to know the dimensions of the photos which I've took, every single one of them is, and I'm quoting, 3456 by 5184. It was taken with a $2,000 camera, so... I got connections. Now, enhancing those photos, sharpening the details, that's all gonna be done in the software. And if you made it this far, do me a favor, drag and drop your mouse on that sexy subscribe button. Brought to you by FM Radio 26. I don't think anyone's gonna take this video seriously. First thing I personally would do is remove the background. There are a bunch of ways you can do this, but let me tell you the one that I used. Look at the top left corner and you'll see all the tools. Now, if you find one that looks like Wonder Woman's lasso, do me a favor and click on that. But if you don't, just go to Tools, Selection Tools, and you'll find Free Select right there. By the way, the shortcut is F. So you may have noticed when you click on something, it creates this dot and a line that follows your cursor. I think you know where I'm going with this. So let me give you 2 quick shortcuts that are going to speed up the entire process. If you hold down Control and also scroll up and down, you'll notice that it starts to move the image relative to where your cursor is positioned. You're gonna need this a lot. Another thing that'll be very helpful is the space bar. Just let go of control. Let go of control. You don't need control. You need space. You need a lot of space. And I'm not just talking about this video and tutorial. You need some space in your personal life, bro. Click and hold space and just move your mouse. You're gonna notice that the image starts to move. These are the 2 essential shortcuts that you're going to need to make the selection process a lot easier. And here's a pro tip, by the way. Instead of focusing on the very edges of yourself, select a little more in. That's going to allow the selection to be a lot smoother. But as always, I just know what you're thinking. John, this is very informational and very helpful, and I'm definitely going to subscribe to your channel. But what if I, for an example, misclick or select the wrong part? Am I just gonna have to restart? Just hover around that little circle, and you'll notice that it starts to shine yellow. Click on that, hold it, and drag it around. You can actually change the position of it. Okay, so let's fast forward a little bit, okay? You've selected everything that you want, and you're finally at the end of the picture. What do? Just go around the frame. It doesn't matter what shape or how precise. You could just go all out for all I care. And then just click back on the first point you've started with. And there you go. Now you have a selection. By the way, if you accidentally clicked on something and that selection is gone, congratulations, you're starting all over again. As soon as you see your selection, immediately immediately click on Control C, aka copy. What I want you to do now is to create a new layer. And how do you do that? Well, let me show you. At the bottom right corner of the software, you should see the layers tab. At the very bottom, you should see a small little icon. I want you to click on that and create a new layer. You remember clicking on Control C as soon as you selected everything? Well, now I want you to click on that new layer which you just made and then click on Control V. Something like this will pop up asking you if you want to make this into a separate layer or merge it. Obviously, you want to merge those two layers together. So you see those eyes at every layer? If you have an IQ of above 10, you should know what those eyes mean. Clicking on it disables and enables the visibility of said layers. The next step is going to be quite an interesting one actually. We're going to be doing the background. Choose a color that best describes your channel. Choose a color that you like. Just choose whatever, okay? No one's going to judge you based on what color you choose, but if you choose black or white, to me, you are as basic as it gets. Create a new layer. Choose the bucket fill tool in your tool section. Again, if you don't have it, it's basically Shift B. Select whichever color you want and just dump it on the background. Make sure you're clicking on that layer and make sure that that layer specifically is selected. Ideally, you want to move that layer up from your original photo, but under your selected and cropped photo. To move it, you literally just drag it and move it up and then just let go. Pretty simple so far, right? Well, I'm about to teach you something that's even more simple and will make the photo a million times better. What you need is to click on the paintbrush tool or just click on F, and here's where it gets a little fun. On the left side of the software, do you see all those parameters? Well, we're actually going to need some of those. The size bar affects the size. I mean, it's pretty straightforward. Spacing, you should really keep at 1 ideally because that's kind of preferable. If you set it at like 50 or 60, you'll notice why. So let's just keep it at 1. Agreed? Agreed. What you'll want to adjust though is the hardness. You want to lower the hardness on maybe a 10, and same thing with force, you're gonna have to lower it at 10 as well. Now, what I want you to do is actually click on the color, and you see those black/white outlined lines? What I want you to do is click and hold where it's currently positioned, those two lines, and I want you to move it just a little bit left and just a little bit up. That's going to give you a lighter shade of the selected color. And by the way, if I haven't said this already, whatever color you choose, it's best to choose the darker version of that color. What's next? Well, the size. Increase the size. And by the way, if you think that the size is on the max, no, it's not. Just click, hold, and drag your mouse to the right. You'll see those numbers go a lot higher. This size for me in this current scenario is more than perfect, and what you want to do is just click. You'll actually notice that it adds this cool little highlight to the existing background color. And this is exactly what you need to get that quality and really professional looking effect. Let me introduce you to a couple of tools that will transform this picture into something way better. All you need to do is click on H on your keyboard and it's going to load up the heal tool. Now, you may have noticed that the heal tool has the same parameters as your brush did. There's a little reset arrow right next to those parameters. Just click on that and it's going to reset to the default. And you're going to want to zoom in on your face to be more specific on your skin and all those wrinkles or imperfections. I want you to click on the clean part of your skin, but not just click, hold control and then click. You'll notice that a small circle is formed. Here's where the magic happens. Hover over any pimple, any mark, and then just click. You will notice that like magic, it disappears, but don't hold click it. Like, just don't hold it. One click at a time, okay? So let's just say you have a logo or a writing on your shirt like I did as well, and you want to remove that. The heal tool doesn't work because it adds a little smudge. Well, you can click on C and activate the clone tool. Same principle, control click on the area that's clean and then just normally click on the logo or the writing you might want to remove. Now the writing/logo is gone and so are the odds of you getting sued or laughed upon that you're using a cheap brand, which probably you should be ashamed of. If it does leave any ugly residue, again, just click on H and use the heal to correct them and everything should be good as of right now. You may actually think, because you know, I just always know what you're thinking, wow, I'm actually done. You actually might be. And if you really want to, you can export the photo as is. In fact, let me show you how to do it. On the top left corner, click on File, click on Export As. On the left side, you should see a bunch of locations where you can export. I usually prefer desktop. Give it a name if you want. Click on Export. However, if you want to take this a step further, you're going to want to sit down. If you're sitting down already, stand up and sit down again. First, I like to go to the colors, and the very first thing I select is usually brightness and contrast. You don't want to make sure that the brightness is not too above contrast. In fact, the opposite, or it's usually balanced out. The very next thing I go with is going to be saturation. It gives you a good idea whether a photo is overly saturated or too cold. By the way, on every one of these settings, in case you think you messed up or you don't like it, there's a reset button literally at the bottom side, and there are a bunch of different modes that you can play around with. And as you can see, for the most part, I'm just fiddling around the dial, seeing what works best with what. Once we're done with the brightness and contrast, and once we're done with the saturation, we can actually move on to exposure. Now, exposure gives you a good idea of blacks and whites. You can make the blacks blacker and the white whiter. I think that was kind of racist, but you know what? I'm gonna go with it. And it's a good setting to fiddle around with, though I usually don't touch the exposure part. I just sort of slightly raise the black level, as it kind of gives a photo a more aesthetically pleasing look. The next setting I play around with a lot is color temperature. Obviously, you can play around with the settings yourself, but I usually do end up using this pretty much 90% of the time. As I said, you don't need to know everything perfectly and what does what. It's simple and very easy to get just the same results as I did. You can try to mess around with colors if you want. For example, the most popular settings I would recommend for that is going to be color balance. You can adjust colors on shadow specifically, on midness, on highlight, everything in between, but I think this is the only settings you should very slightly fiddle with, because again, you really don't want to take away from that original image. And finally, if you have a very blurry image, and if you have an image that's not that good quality, if you go to filters, you can go to enhance and then choose sharpen. This setting is absolutely amazing, as it really sharpens and details the entire photo to your liking. I genuinely like to use the normal mode. It doesn't necessarily make that much of a difference for me. After that is just as simple as exporting. As I told you guys before, click on export and we are done. Congratulations, you have successfully made a pretty good looking profile picture. If you have any questions along the way, if there's anything that you messed up and want to know how to fix, or you want me to do other tutorials, just let me know in the comment section down below. And if you made it so far, thank you so much. I'm not going to take any more of your time. Just remember to subscribe, because I'm trying to reach 500 subscribers, and I'll see you in the next video.